Today, the White House responds to the suggestion that they are withholding Regeneron from red states. Nicki Minaj comes out against cancel culture, and Ted Cruz unloads on Biden regarding the crisis at the border. We have got a jam-packed show today, and it all starts right now. Happy Friday. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. It is going to be a very fun show today. We've got Eric July, BlazeTV contributor Eric July, back in the house, but also on her maiden voyage on the show, we have Blair White, writer of the Post Millennial. Also, I don't know, I mean, I should have just started with YouTuber because that is, of course, how everyone knows you.
Right, subscribe.
Yes, please subscribe. Blair White, YouTube. And this is going to be a really good show. And I was telling them off air, I'll let the viewers in on a little secret. I actually got a viewer of the show who sent something in to me and said, why didn't you, I'm really disappointed that you didn't bring up the Nicki Minaj story yesterday. This was Thursday. And I said, oh, just wait, because I have the two perfect people to comment on all topics of culture tomorrow, which is, of course, today. So glad to have you guys here. Let's start with Psaki, Jen Psaki, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, who responded to all of the claims, which just happen to be true. I'll just sort of insert that part in. All of the claims that the White House, the Biden administration, is restricting the distribution of the monoclonal antibody treatments to states that just happen to be red states. Just happen to be
coincidence.
Yes, just crazy coincidence, right? Just the southern states, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, which is like one of the hardest hit states right now with COVID, Texas, all of these states just happened to be red states, just happened to not vote for Joe Biden. And only a week after Joe Biden himself coming out and saying we're going to be increasing the supply of Regeneron, of these monoclonal antibody treatments, by 50%. We're going to be distributing them out nationwide. All of a sudden, we found out that they were throttling the distribution of them in all of these red states, just so happened to also be the states that have been hit the hardest by COVID at this particular moment. So they were asked on this, and here is that exchange and Jen Psaki answering the question. Watch.
Not accurate, so let me give you the accurate information. First of all, we are increasing our distribution this month by 50%. In early August, we were distributing an average of 100,000 doses per week. Now we're shipping an average of 150,000 doses per week. Over the last month, though, and one thing that I think people need to understand for clarity, facts, I know you're like facts, is that monoclonal antibodies are life-saving therapies that are used after infection to prevent more severe outcomes. So clearly the way to protect people and save more lives is to get them vaccinated so that they don't get the COVID to begin with. But over the last month, given the rise in cases due to the Delta variant and the lower number of vaccination rates in some of these states, like Florida, like Texas, just 7 states are making up 70% of the orders. Our supply is not unlimited, and we believe it should be equitable across states across the country.
There's been no reports of a lack of supply, so why cut them to those states only if there's no reports?
I think our role as the government overseeing the entire country is to be equitable in how we distribute. We're not going to give a greater percentage to Florida over Oklahoma, nor do I think are you suggesting that. I think we have to move on.
Okay. Well,
Notice her aversion to the word facts.
yes.
Just going to point that out first. But.
Yeah. And of course, also a couple times she used the term equitable. Right, that is the term that they keep using. The Biden administration keeps using. I think thinking that the general public will just hear that and think that it is the same as equal or equality. It is not, of course. But they said we're not going to give a greater percentage to Florida over Oklahoma. Well, if Florida has a greater percentage of cases,
or a bigger population,
right?
or...
Why does it make there are certain factors that you have to consider when you're dealing with a virus that people are getting, other than well, we have to send the same amount to each state. If one state is hardest hit and they just so happen to be a state that voted against me, and also a state that we claim are refusing the vaccine, oh, well, sorry if you die. Not
Well,
really.
Spoiler alert, it's not about the virus at all. It's entirely political, and then they'll gaslight you into thinking that you're the one making it political when the government is literally favoring states over other states based on how they voted.
Yeah, I mean, I love that point because it really, the gaslighting is at an all-time high, especially when they're talking about people making it political. Like, I've never once said I'm not going to take a vaccine because, like, I don't even understand how you get to making the vaccine political. Right, like the Trump presidency brought us the vaccine.
Yep.
If we were making it political and it was all about Trump, I'd be like, please inject this into my arm because it stands for President Trump. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even make sense.
It was so much wrong
to call it political. But they do.
Yeah, I mean, it was so much wrong with what it was that she said, first and foremost, because first of all, she operated among this moronic idea as if vaccinated people couldn't spread this virus or catch the virus, which we already know factually. She talked about facts, ironically enough. That is not factual in terms of what it is she said. And that's what this whole antibody deal is about. It's about there being an alternative to that jab in the first place. You know, maybe it's a case of people getting sick and then trying to treat it. And so this is more so what we're looking more as a form of therapeutic. But then I think about the vaccine. It acts the same damn way,
right?
You know, because it doesn't prevent you from getting it. We know that it doesn't. Well, they changed what a vaccine actually is now. It doesn't necessarily make you immune anymore, but traditionally that's what we thought of it as, and that's not what this is. But I particularly took issue with, always have to make this about decentralization.
Of course
she said she went out on that limb. And this is why people should see the problem. She said, "This is our." She said, "This is our government that's overseeing all this." That's the fundamental problem. And I was reading this morning that DeSantis was saying, "All right, well, screw it. I'm just going to start trying to go directly to the manufacturers to make sure I get all of this if they're going to sort of throttle me." See, I've loved that we saw Jesse Kelly tweet about this in response to the Sarah Silverman situation. I love when stuff like this happens. I hate that it sucks in the way that it does because, well, you're trying to really prevent treatment from other people that may want it. However, people are starting to realize the fundamental problem and the middleman that the federal government plays as and how unnecessary that they actually are. They're like unnecessary. Unfortunately, the indoctrination work, the propaganda work, where a lot of people conflate federal government to country or the culture that the country supposedly represents. When that couldn't be anything further from the truth. It's exactly what Jen Psaki says, as moronic as it may be, damn be the population. She cares about what's equitable and all that other sort of moronic stuff. My question is, why do they get to dictate how much, if that's indeed what they need, how much Florida can bring in or the Texas of the world can bring in terms of this sort of treatment? There's a fundamental problem with that, but that's really extending to a lot of other things. COVID just showed everybody the problem it is. And some people are conceding, definitely after what happened with California and that failed recall. Some people are starting to consider this as a viable alternative. So I think we got a couple of years and then I have everybody on this show saying, screw the federal government. We need to secede or whatever, decentralization. I'm looking forward to that.
So Eric brings up a great point, and he also was speaking on California, the recall election. I know you are now I hope, proud resident of Texas.
I am.
Awesome.
Yes.
It was the best decision of my life to come to Texas. And unfortunately, the recall was on my birthday, September 14th, and it didn't happen. It would have been a great birthday present, even though it doesn't technically affect me anymore. But yeah, I think honestly, people are having more conversations about a national divorce. You saw Sarah Silverman doing it, which to come out of her mouth was kind of like, okay, well, let's see where this goes, you know? And it does feel like we're living in two different countries. As someone who was born and raised in California and then moved to LA, I was from Northern California, it was more red. It feels like a different country here. I catch myself reaching for a mask that isn't there. I catch myself like, am I allowed to do this? And I have people saying, is it even a question? Are you allowed to do this? Insert whatever this you want. It is like a different country.
It is funny because we have people come here. I remember Dave Rubin, maybe not the last time he was here, but the time before last, and he was like, this just feels really weird. We're all sitting at a table together. We're not masked up. Like, when you are in that for so long, and to me, I mean, to us, we've been living here the whole time. So life hasn't been that different. Even at the height of it, I wasn't wearing a mask. I never got told to, leave or told off or anything like that. So to me, it just was like, wow, there are people in other states, not in other countries, in other states.
Just a little flight away.
Yeah.
I mean, blue states, California in particular, give you Stockholm syndrome. Because for the first week I was here in Texas, I wasn't happy. I was like, what is all this freedom I have to do with? Like, things are so different here. And now I'm, more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how was I unhappy at all when I got here? But California will literally convince you have to be there, no matter how bad it is.
So were the mandates the breaking point for you? What was the tipping point?
Yeah, I mean, right before I even moved here, one of my best friends had a birthday party at a bar, and I couldn't go because they were requiring vaccines. And it's not that I'm anti-vax, and it's so sick that people will call you that over simply being slightly hesitant, when flashback to 6 months ago, everyone on the other side was saying they would not take it if Trump brought it to them. And so yeah, it's just the feeling of like the government releasing things that you're not allowed to walk your dog outside, not allowed to go outside without a mask, no matter how anti-science that is, because we know COVID can't really spread outside, so we don't need to wear a mask. But yeah, it feels like people in California, and I was just talking about this, everyone's liberal there, but it's more performative than here. The liberals in Texas, they really believe it.
Yeah.
And you can see they really believe it because they literally have green hair and armpit hair.
Yes.
Whereas,
and they don't smell great.
Right. In LA, they have, $1,000 perfumes on, and they just say it because they're in an industry where they have to say it.
They have to, yeah.
Yeah, but it is a different world here.
Yeah, so yesterday we discussed, the Biden administration just coming to this decision to throttle, to limit the supply of all of these, just so happens to be red states.
Right.
And I said, someone tell me where I'm wrong. I mean, this legitimately feels like these people are just leaving the people in the red states to die. They're saying, you didn't take my advice. I told you to get the vaccine, and you didn't do it. And because you didn't do it, I'm going to punish you. And if you die, so be it. That is your consequence of not listening to Big Daddy government.
Look,
losing patience.
The whole conversation about the vaccinated versus unvaccinated is exactly that.
Yeah.
It never had anything to do with science.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with science right now, specifically because they act as if the unvaccinated are a threat to the vaccinated, when we know that they can, as vaccinated people, spread it. Like, that's an objective fact here. So that argument is null and void. They can't use it, but they continue to use it. So the reason being is because it doesn't make sense, because as pro-vaccine as Trump was, none of this makes sense. But they think that they're punishing their ideological, or rather political enemies. So this is why, if you talk to these weirdos on the, that's what I do on Twitter. I argue with these weirdos.
Now
but if you argue with them, now that I'm not suspended anymore. But I argue with them, and they all say the same thing, and they assume that you're a MAGA hat wearing person that loves Trump in the event that you are. It ain't even about being anti-vax if you are not pro-vaccine mandate, is more so all that it is, because that's a false dichotomy. Most of all of us have been vaccinated for something, so that doesn't really make sense, but that's what it is. They are attempting to punish the people that they think are on the opposite side. Yes, they conjured it up. Yes, it's textbook gaslighting. It's a completely made up scenario, false dichotomy, but they think that they're punishing their enemy. So it's not just with that. You heard like the Don Lemons of the world was on CNN the other day talking about, well, we need to be shaming these people. We need to be calling them stupid, all these sorts of things. They think that they're punishing us. That's all this is about. When New York City does their vax passport, that's all this is about. They want to punish the enemy because none of this is rooted in science. Obviously, they've been neutered of those moronic arguments.
Yeah. All right.
It's right out of the communist playbook. You know, it's about turning neighbors on neighbors. It's just another tool.
Gina
of
Carano
division.
was right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It
and
is.
then Gina Carano got removed and blacklisted and all
Yeah.
these things for saying what actually is true.
Yeah, it's just you have race and gender and sexuality, and you look at the last election and there's a record number of minorities voting red, so those are becoming slowly less effective tools of division. Look at this table right now.
Yeah.
It's diverse.
That's true.
Right.
But you convince one half of the population, the other half is literally trying to kill them.
Yep. That's what you get. All right, we've got more to come, including Nicki Minaj and her feud with the left. It's great when you see the left eating their own. It's a nice change of pace. We've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Bonner Wines, which I think I have a bottle right here. because the way that I drink wine, I like to make sure that I have them in all places at all times in case the mood strikes, especially on Friday. But the reason why Bonner wines are one of my favorites is because they grow these grapes that they use at like 9,000 feet over in Argentina. And if you don't drink wine very often, you may not realize that that makes a huge difference in the wine that is created from these grapes, these high altitude wines. So that is what Bonner Wines does. They have these wines. They pair great with a medium rare steak, but we only accept medium rare on this show. You may cook your steak no other way. But these Malbecs are the best of the best of the best. The greatest part about them is that it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to purchase, because the folks over at cowgirlwine2021.com are going to give you 50% off today. All right, there's no promo code necessary. You just got to go to cowgirlwine2021.com. Be like me, carry it everywhere you go at cowgirlwine2021.com. Rapper Nicki Minaj, who is obviously a member of the left, right? Full-on member of the left, would have never questioned any of that before now. But Nicki Minaj says that America's preoccupation with cancel culture is hardly different than that of communist China, which I believe was Blair's point right before we went to break. And Nicki Minaj has determined this from all of her, she's been feuding with the left after she said on Twitter that a friend, just bear with me here on this story, a friend of her Trinidad cousin became impotent after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine, and his testicles swelled up, I guess would be the professional way to bring this news to you. And she said that she did not attend the 2021 Met Gala because she was not vaccinated against coronavirus yet. They're requiring vaccines. They're requiring you to be vaccinated. And she said they want you to, this is what she tweeted, they want you to get vaccinated for the Met. If I get vaccinated, it won't be for the Met. It will be once I feel I've done enough research. I'm working on that now. In the meantime, my loves, be safe. Wear the mask with 2 strings that grips your head and face, not that loose one. Okay, so not an anti-vax, anti-mask rant, obviously telling people mask up if you haven't gotten the vaccine, is not what you would call conservative views. She was slammed for that. She was slammed by MSNBC host Joy Reid. She was slammed by all of these members of the left, saying that she was promoting vaccine hesitancy. How dare she do all these things? And Nicki Minaj actually went to her Instagram and was very upset about all of the comments that she was getting, all of the criticisms that she was getting. Here is what she had to say on that.
You should be able to ask questions about anything you're putting inside your body. We ask a bunch of questions about the most simple thing. Oh, how that glue work? Do that glue really keep the wig down for how many hours? Oh, because if I go in the pool and if I sweat it up and how that. But you can't just innocently ask a question about something going in your body. Do y'all realize that I remember going to China and they were telling us, you cannot speak out against, the people in power there, etc. And I remember all of us thinking, oh, okay, well, we understand and we respect the laws here and that it's so different where we live. But don't y'all see what's happening? Don't y'all see that we are living now in that time?
It's weird. It's a weird world whenever I agree with Nicki Minaj, but she's not wrong, Blair.
Well, how can you be filthy rich like that and not be a capitalist? She's done, honestly, I'm a huge Nicki Minaj fan. They're called Barbs. I'm a Barb. And
are they really?
Yeah. And
okay.
She's actually, if you know her music well, over the years, she's actually had a lot of lines in her songs that have, as someone who's a Republican, kind of been like, oh. Like she literally has, and she said it was a joke, but she literally has a line saying, I'm a Republican voting for Mitt Romney, which You know, so no, but she's absolutely right. And it's not about being anti-vax and the fact that like we get labeled anti-vax. She is. It's not about being anti-vax. It's about being anti-force. It's about being, why do I have to show up to Rite Aid or Walgreens or wherever and get this shot? And why can't I ask any questions about it? And you know, it's the force. It's not the actual vaccine.
So I want to bring into the conversation because I think that this is an important part of it too. The effect that this will have on people. There are, as you pointed out, Blair, there are a lot of Nicki Minaj fans out there, and these people listen to their favorite artists, to, you know, their favorite actors, whoever it may be. All of the Barbs. Did I use that correctly? All of the Barbs listen to Nicki Minaj, so much so that fans of Nicki Minaj were protesting outside the headquarters of the CDC in Atlanta, shouting, "Nicki Minaj told me the truth, Fauci lied to me." Here's some of that.
Nicki Minaj said, Nicki Minaj said, Nicki Minaj said, and she said, I'm not going to take your vaccine to go to no stupid Met Gala. Look at the kids. You know Fauci's lying. 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 You know Fauci's lying.
All right, that's we get the gist of it. Yes, I know, and it's like, look, you can either use your platform to, I mean, you can do a bunch of awful things. We've seen the left do it all the time with the platforms that they have. But I think that there is a very important piece of this that is, Nicki Minaj, again, is not saying don't get the vaccine. She's literally saying do your research before you inject something into your body. Oh, and by the way, while you're doing that, continue to protect yourself. And she's getting slammed for it. And people, is this a good sign? I'm trying to get to the optimistic part of the show, Eric, but I feel like maybe you will not agree.
Well, it could be optimistic, but I see what happened with Kanye, and I think there's going to be a drop ball here. I would love for guys like myself and Maj Toure to actually be the ones to sit down with Nicki Minaj and just have a conversation about some of these alternatives instead of the guys. I'm not going to take shots at them, but you know exactly who they are that just want to slap a freaking MAGA hat on her instead of explaining what the hell is going on. This just goes to show how culturally inept conservatives and a lot of people that value liberty have historically been, to where the left props people up in these entertainment sectors, and then once someone slightly deviates, they start foaming at the mouth. Oh my gosh, she's one of us.
Oh, yeah, he's a conservative. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, as if there aren't people that are doing art in rap, that are here that actually consistently advocate liberty. This is why they lose. But nonetheless, this should be a learning experience, not only for her, but for us. This is why the let's say the left White House right now invited her to where they want to get her basically in line. Because you can't have someone that has that big of a platform saying something and making folks, let's say, skeptical of whatever narrative it is. Because she didn't say anything unreasonable. I love the tweet. We did show the tweet. I wish they had pulled it up, and you can, about what she said about black people and Democrats. I really love that one. She said Democrats basically could do something, I'm not going to say it on air, tell you to do something and you'll do it. Because this is when Tucker Carlson was basically defending her. And of course you had those weirdos like Chink Uger's nephew, whose name I won't say, was sitting there talking about she's I guess supporting a white nationalist and all those sort of buzz terms. Nonetheless, it should be a learning experience for all parties that are involved. Culture matters. It's always mattered. And the culturally inept, liberty-minded folks, be it us libertarians or the conservatives, that have neglected that. The leftists understand the long game. And they understand if they get the culture, they get the politics by default. They cannot have prominent people like Nicki Minaj breeding any sort of like skepticism, because if they lose culture, they lose everything, because they don't have the best ideas. It's not like any of this is rooted in things that make sense, and they understand that. So they're like, oh, we got to send everybody out, or send the academics, White House, call her in, because we got to whip her back into shape, because she can't be saying things like that. Pick up on that and why that is so important, instead of just being freaking reactionary. And every time some prominent rapper says something, they're like, oh, we're foaming at the mouth. Nicki Minaj is one of us. Like, you're late, man.
You're so right. I've been saying for years now that the right needs to embrace art, creativity,
100%.
Music, movies. It's like, for some reason, so many of us, I'm not including myself or anyone here, but have this aversion to like fun and relatability and art and, you know, support artists on the right. Tom McDonald.
Yeah.
Support him.
Yeah.
You know, I just did a music video with him. He's amazing. And, you know, I've seen him interviewed by some people on the right who, like, they get hung up on, like, his tattoos and, like, he's a rapper. He's a rapper. You want him to look like Ben Shapiro? It's not going to happen. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for Ben Shapiro's and the people like that whose job is to, in a very monotone voice, it's no shade, communicate things. And that reaches a certain specific kind of person.
Right.
But there's a whole other side to people that relate to emotion and art and storytelling. And we have almost no hand in that.
None. That's what guys like myself, you know, I do the rap stuff, but obviously more people know me from doing the metal stuff with Backwards and everything. We've been here. Maj Toure, we've been here. Like, we've been in the trenches talking about this, and for whatever reason, a lot of people have just been inept to that, acting as if we don't exist, and then it isn't until someone on the left props up, deviates, and then that's when you want to act like you're all in on it. So now they're trying to slap a MAGA hat on freaking Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, that's not happening. I gotta say, that is not happening. But however, she can use her platform
100%.
to suggest that her followers at least do their own research, I think is great. All right, we've got to take a break. First, we want to thank our sponsor of this segment, Raycon, which I just have to say here, Mom, it was your birthday last week, and instead of I dropped the ball and I ordered her a pair of Raycons in rose gold, by the way, which I really want. I want to steal them, but I ordered them late, and so they didn't get there in time. We were on a trip with her actually, and I printed out just like the order that showed her what she got, but I got the box, it's in, and I'm not sure that I'm going to give them to you because I kind of want to keep them for myself because they're really cute and I need the rose gold color too. But for those of you who have not yet gotten your Raycons, you got to try them. They're not like the other competitors who I won't say their names, but they've got the big stems that come out of your ears and they weigh your ear down and they fall out because they're heavier on the stems. They don't have that. They fit comfortably inside your ear. It comes with several different gels that you can put on so to make sure that it fits on the inside of your ear because we all have different size ears, as it turns out. But these are really awesome. Their battery life is incredible, and you are not going to regret getting your Raycons, whether you're listening to podcasts like this one, whether you're listening to music all the time, whether you're just drowning out your liberal aunt at Thanksgiving. All right, you need a pair of Raycons. Right now, the News and Why It Matters listeners can get 15% off of their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/Y. That is BUY, raycon.com/Y. So as we're having this conversation about thinking critically, about thinking for yourself, about the fact that not taking a certain vaccine that has no long-term studies does not actually make you an anti-vaxxer, I'd just like to, completely unrelated, okay, just drop this news on you. Pfizer, that name sounds familiar, Pfizer, has announced it is recalling all lots of its anti-smoking treatment drug Chantix due to what it says are high levels of carcinogens in the pills. And for those of you who are not familiar with that word, that is it means a cancer-causing agent. So they said that there were some lots of their drugs that had these high levels, and out of an abundance of caution, because they're just here for you. Pfizer's just here for you, right. The little man who's just having trouble quitting smoking, or the little man who's just trying to beat this virus that has like over a 99% survivability rate. Pfizer's just here for you and all of the profits that they get. But they are going to recall all lots of its drug. And I just thought that it would be interesting to point out that there are certain drugs that do get approved that are tainted with things. There are certain drugs that do get approved that get recalled later. Check the history, folks.
Yeah, we were just saying over the break, that half the commercials you see on TV are, did you take this drug in the 30s, the 40s? Well, your grandkids might have swollen balls or whatever. You know what I mean? So
that's what Nicki Minaj was talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane that we're supposed to believe that this drug is safe even though we have no long-term studies, as if the FDA has never let one fall through the cracks, as if there's never been a problem with any drugs for any person. One size fits all, apparently.
how people just became so pro big pharma just overnight.
How about the left became pro big pharma?
Pro big pharma. It was asinine because Pfizer, not just Pfizer, but a lot of these pharmaceutical companies have a history. I mean, just don't take my word for anything. Look into it. The vast amounts of settlements and recalls and all sorts of stuff that's been out there for hell, in some cases decades, and then ends up getting pulled. You know, like the Vioxxins of the world, which was giving people like heart attacks and all sorts of things. I don't think that was Pfizer per se. It might have been, but I don't think it was. But there's just all sorts of drugs. There's a whole massive list of things that the FDA approved as well. And you're looking at something right here that has no amount of long-term study. Like, it just simply does not exist. Right now, everybody that has taken it is objectively the lab rat.
You are the study.
You are the study. You know, we learned about, like, now they're funding the research to try to see what's going on with women's cycles and all of that sort of stuff to see what was happening with that. And then you had the myocarditis and the heart issues, inflammation issues that they didn't account for, that is increasing the risk for particularly young men in that regard. So to act like someone that looks at that and says, well, considering my age, my health, this isn't something that I want to take the risk on, because if there are some issues that happen down the line, I don't want to really be a part of that, considering that, I don't know, the infected fatality rate is in the 0.0s for people that are generally like me. That is a perfectly rational decision for someone to make. Now, they make it seem like, by way of gaslighting, you're the crazy one in the event that you don't, despite all the numerous failures by way of not just Pfizer and the pharmaceutical companies, but just medical malpractice, which kills hundreds of thousands of people throughout the year. Someone being skeptical of that, there's nothing wrong with it, but they want you to take it, not even think about it. That's what Don Lemon was talking about with his bro Cuomo the other day, that, oh, well, you guys do other stuff that you don't know what you eat, so why don't you just take this? Like, that's not really a good argument.
No.
Like, that's a lousy one, because I actually, if I get prescribed anything by my doctor, I'm like, what the hell is that?
I always look at it.
What is that? I don't, if I get prescribed, I'm like, what is that? There are a lot of rational people out there. So to those folks that are out there being coerced because of that, don't allow them to do that, man. There are so many people, I hate getting emails from folks that are like, well, I think I'm gonna get it. I don't want it, but my job, I think, is gonna start requiring it by way of, I don't know, by the start of next year or in October or something like that. Like, if you don't think it's right for you, that's perfectly fine. Don't make an irrational decision that you feel is irrational simply because the other side is coercing you into doing it.
I want to bring another piece of this in here, because I do think it's important, the role that big tech is playing in trying to convince people that they're crazy if they don't want to take a particular drug. It was pointed out by Samir Armstrong, who is an actress. Unfortunately, I think she does still live in California. God bless her. But if you went, and I did this myself, so I don't know if it's happening to every single person. I've had a couple people tell me that this didn't happen to them, but I did it. If you go to Instagram and you click on the hashtag that someone has written, that is hashtag natural immunity, here's what I got. The first one, after you click the hashtag, it says, are you looking for vaccine info? When it comes to health, everyone wants reliable, up-to-date information. Visit the CDC's website. That website can help you. So the three options are cancel, go to the website, or see the post anyway. So I click, of course, see the post anyway, and then I am directed to another page that says this hashtag is hidden. Posts for hashtag natural immunity have been limited because the community has reported some content that may not meet Instagram's community guidelines. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Truth has now informed you that you may not discuss something that has been a thing since the beginning of time, which is natural freaking immunity, which is how our bodies were created to be. Don't discuss it. You will get silenced. Do not discuss natural immunity. Inject the chemicals into your veins.
And not just that. Reference the CDC.
Yes.
The same CDC that back in April said if you got the vaccine, you wasn't going to get the virus.
You got everything wrong over and over again. That's why I keep saying, where is this trust I'm supposed to have and where can I source it from? Because it's been since the beginning of the entire pandemic, step by step, the government and big tech, everyone's gotten everything wrong. And now suddenly it's different now. Now there can never be any problems with the vaccine. Going to be no issues. The government cares about you. Whereas in no other area of life does the government care about you.
Right, exactly.
Except for this one, and not only this one like this month.
Right.
Like not last year, like this month.
Just
it's
this
sick.
month.
It's sick.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
It just drives me
like
nuts.
that one, like this is what frustrates me just really quick because I saw, for example, was it Stephen King, if I'm not mistaken, that posted that moronic post about Florida having like 1,200 deaths.
Yeah.
I went to look the other day just to make sure, though it was proven to be false, there's no tag on there that says it was medical misinformation.
Yeah, of course
That's
not.
They don't get
This
fact
post is
checked.
misleading. This is medical misinformation. No, you don't see those on all of the left's ridiculousness that they're tweeting out all of the time. All right, so we've got more to come, but we first have to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. If you're watching this program right now and you're like, things are crazy, things are insane, mandates, lockdowns, inflation, all of the things under the Biden administration, there is something that you can do about it. A lot of people feel helpless, but you can at least support companies that believe what you believe in instead of supporting, say, big cell carrier companies who are going to donate a portion of your money and give it to all of these left-leaning causes that you are fighting against. You can instead take your money and your business to Patriot Mobile. They have the same nationwide coverage that the big mobile carriers do, but they support the same values that you support. And also, they have 100% US-based customer service. They're going to donate a portion of your money to places that are, pro-life, keeping your guns instead of taking them. And they also have special discounts for veterans and first responders. You can go to patriotmobile.com/news. You will get free activation with the offer code NEWS. That is patriotmobile.com/news. The border crisis continues to worsen here in Texas. Senator Ted Cruz released a video yesterday afternoon from his trip to Del Rio, Texas, where he observed what he said was more than, just 10,000 illegal immigrants that had been apprehended by U.S. Border Patrol. But it's just the 10,000 under a bridge. Here is Ted Cruz over on the border.
I'm here in Del Rio, Texas, September 16th. Underneath the bridge behind me, there are 10,503 people. This is a crisis that is unfolding. It's a man-made crisis. Just over a week ago, there were fewer than 1,000 people here under the bridge, averaging between 700 and 1,000. Then, on September 8th, the Biden administration made a decision to cancel deportation flights back to Haiti. The vast majority of these illegal immigrants crossing in Del Rio are from Haiti. When they made that decision 8 days ago, the 700 to 1,000 people who were here discovered they could stay.
Then, of course, he said they called their friends, they called their family. 8 days later, 700 people became 10,503. And by the way, Joe, good old Joe, pudding brain Joe, you could end this tomorrow by simply following the law. Now, Ted Cruz didn't say pudding. I added the pudding brain. But you could end this tomorrow by simply following the law. And yet, here we are. And, I know, Blair, you just moved here. This is some of the dirty side of Texas. The bad side of Texas is that we have to deal with this, and it's not getting better. It's just getting worse. And I hesitate to say this, but it feels like it's by design. I can't see any other rationale for it at this point.
Right. I mean, I can think of maybe a few reasons why the other side would want to bring in insane amounts of people. Maybe that they're slightly more inclined to vote for them. But it's also funny that the left only cares about any humanitarian issues happening at the border when there's a Republican president.
Right.
And because we have Biden, it's just not a problem anymore.
Right. I mean, I recall seeing well, they weren't cages. Biden turned them into containers. Because we did see they had plexiglass, all right, so they were containers, which apparently is more humane when you cram a bunch of people into the container. They're not, but they're not cages.
Dog has a container, but okay.
Right, exactly.
Look, this is just policy in action. I think that no matter where you're on the subject of immigration, the federal government, or rather the government in general, unfortunately puts a lot of people under the illusion that something is when it isn't. So it could be something as slight as that. It's like what we had when we had that influx that happened right after the presidency, or whether Joe Biden won the presidency. They thought that, okay, and we saw the interviews of people that were coming definitely from like South and Central America coming through here and saying, okay, well, now I think is my chance, right? I have, I think it's going to be all good for me to really get through and be into this country. And look, I understand it. I'll be empathetic to these people that are trying to seek certainly better lives, but you can't sit up here and act like some of that stuff isn't a self-inflicted wound. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't seem to want to believe, because like you mean, word travels fast. So this is talking about Haiti, which I would think they would be coming closer to Florida than they would Texas, but they see an opportunity, right? September 8th happens, and these guys, they see a slight policy change, so they start calling everybody like, hey, this may be certainly your chance. Figure it out. Let's get over here. So until people acknowledge that, we can't even have an honest discussion about immigration and the impacts rather of it, because you have one side that's completely delusional as to what this leads to. Anybody can up and say, the California elites especially can up and say, oh, we have all the room, bring them all over here. There's going to be no severe impact or anything like that. Now, that all sounds good and well, but it's not based in any sort of reality.
And I think that the left does this often, right? It's for insurance. Well, everyone needs insurance. Well, we can provide all of these things for all of these people. And it sounds really great. And, you have these bleeding heart liberals who are like, we just want to save everyone. And it's like, I mean, like, I want to save all the animals too, but that doesn't mean I can have 2 million, cats and dogs in my house.
Or you can steal from people to then house these, like what we do with the refugee, which I have less about the immigration.
Logistically, it doesn't work out.
Right.
Sounds great.
I've had more of an issue with the refugee resettlement programs, which is literally stealing from taxpayer to then subsidize immigrants. Like, I don't care, libertarian or not, that's something that especially libertarians, you should be certainly against. Again, it's one thing, we talk about immigrants from anywhere, really Haiti. If one of those bleeding heart liberals up there in California want to reach into their own damn pockets,
do it.
Bring them over to their own houses so they are actually responsible for whatever happens out of that. I'm not against that, and to be fair, I don't know a lot of people that are against them doing that, because they're paying for that with their own set of resources, or you pay for their travel, you pay to house them. So if anything happens, it's on your head, but that's not what we deal with. It's all these charitable people with other people's money saying that the government must do this, and that's the only way that we can help so many people. And then meanwhile, these guys don't live anywhere near anywhere there's any demographic change. They don't live anywhere near that.
Right. Yeah. And you made a great point that, the left really stops after just making it sound good. That's enough for them. Yeah. Same with their policies, their groups, Black Lives Matter. The name of it, of course, love it. Antifa, I'm anti-fascism, of course. But you actually look at it, you use a critical brain, and it never works out, and it always screws over the people.
Yep. Amen. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back. Yeah, that's their messaging. It's great. Sounds awesome. All right, well, it's Friday, which means we have, it's Hate Mail Friday. We have some social media comments for me to read about myself, which brings me to Randy, who said on my Facebook, wish I can slap this bitch, which is very similar to our friend Blair, who's, I think your pronouns are actually that bitch.
Right.
So he must not have been talking about you.
No, I don't get slapped.
That. Me either, honey. All right. We've got one more. Love your dental ads. Those chunky fakers just blind me. Think I'll go for thinner veneer, though. Thanks for the what not to do. Unfortunately, these are actually my real teeth, which I will say, if I did have veneers, these would be straight. They were not straight and I had to use Candid aligners to straighten them. So they're not veneers, but thank you. I appreciate all of the love. Also, don't forget to subscribe to both Eric July and Blair White. And you can catch Blair tonight on Elijah Schaefer and Sydney Watson's show. It is right after this show. It is called You Are Here. If you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Go subscribe. Thanks, guys, so much for being here.
Thank you so much.